Romas are one of my all-time favorite tomatoes. A somewhat determinate, somewhat vine-type tomato known for its elongated, supercharged fruit. But what many people don't know, Romas are also open-pollinated. What this means is their fruit breeds true and the seeds produce exact replicas of the parents. While not a true heirloom tomato, Romas do share most of the same characteristics as one, which is why I save my Roma seeds every year. Let me show you how. Romas, as with all tomatoes, have the best chance to set fertile seed when they're picked ripe. If possible, wait until these guys are a deep red in color and somewhat tender to the touch. It's funny, because botanically, Romas are considered to be determinate in that they set their fruit all at once. Practically, this almost never happens. So, keep this in mind when you're picking your seed specimens. The other thing to note with Roma tomatoes is that more than any other variety of tomato, they have huge size discrepancies in their fruit, even from the same plant. It's really quite amazing. But don't stress over it for seed picking. I've done trials with fruit size over 3 generations, and the size you pick doesn't seem to affect the size you grow the following year from that seed. Once you've decided on your fruit, we can now get into the seed extraction. This is where Roma tomatoes differ from other varieties of tomatoes in 2 ways. With almost all varieties of tomatoes, it's easiest to cut them cross-sectionally and then squeeze out the seeds like I'm doing with this Starfire determinate. The seeds pop out quite easily with minimal tomato bits that you don't want. Just add water and you're good to go. With Romas, as we mentioned, they're different in 2 ways. The first is we cut them longitudinally, which really is no big deal. But the reason we do this, they spawn far less seeds than nearly every other tomato variety on the planet, even cherry tomatoes. A lot of times, there can be as little as 20 viable seeds in a large Roma fruit. So, when picking Romas for seed saving, be very, very aware that you may need to pick up to 4 times as much Romas as you would a regular tomato. Also, being a paste tomato, there can be very little juice inside the fruit. So, the seeds sometimes will have to be manually dug out with your fingers or a spoon. Once you're confident that you have enough Roma seeds, simply add water and let step 3 almost take care of itself. Sprouting tomato seeds in the late winter, early spring is one of the true joys of gardening. However, they must first be set like they would in nature. You see, tomato seeds have a protective gel coating that prevents them from sprouting inside the fruit. Normally, a rotting tomato would break down that coating naturally. We mimic that by fermenting the seeds for 2 weeks or so to break down that gelatinous coat. Fermenting is easy. It's basically just letting them sit and get all funky for a couple of weeks. Once the seeds have fermented and that gel coating has dissolved, we can now strain them out. An actual strain is super handy, but you veterans with a steady hand can probably freehand this, as viable tomato seeds actually sink in water. Simply wash the seeds off as best as possible and remove any debris, tomato bits, or floating fruit flies that might be in the container. Once you've obtained your clean seeds, we now need to decide where and how to dry them. I dry all my tomato seeds on sheets of paper, and they're dry within about 24 hours. You can use newspaper, white computer paper, but my all-time favorite is the shiny no-stick back of label paper. This way, the seeds don't get stuck and they're easily removed for storage. Spread your seeds out as much as possible to avoid clumping and to allow for a more even drying. Tomato seeds naturally want to work against you by sticking and clumping together. Clumps of seeds may actually stay wet, and you don't want to be storing these guys with any moisture at all. Upon closer inspection, you can see why they so readily stick together. They look as if they're actually coated in Velcro. After a day or so under normal indoor conditions, the seeds are dry. Try to dismantle any large clumps by simply rolling them in your fingers. For storage and for next year's planting, we really want nice dry individual seeds. To store them, you can use a paper envelope, deli cup, Tupperware, or like I do, these little resealable bags. Whatever you use, do make sure to label what variety of tomato they are. This is where the benefit of that shiny label paper comes in handy, as the seeds just roll off into the baggie. With other paper types, you'd be picking off the seeds individually, and at any sort of scale, that would be mind-numbingly frustrating. Inevitably, though, there's always a few stragglers left behind. Seal them up, and Roma seeds, like all tomato seeds, can be stored like this for up to 5 years. Despite low seed counts, Roma plants themselves are insanely prolific and one of the easiest tomato varieties to grow. Relatively pest and disease free, they'll always have a place in my garden. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you're getting value in this and the other series that I'm doing on YouTube, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons if you'd be so kind, and I'll see you in the next video.